to episode 6 of the Hit Play podcast. I am one of your hosts, Isaac Jimenez, joined always by James Harding. James, what's going on, man?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good, can't complain. We actually had some kind of current event happen this past weekend of when we're recording it, so I guess when this
Yes.
episode comes out it'll already be 2 weeks. But the Oscars.
Yeah.
The Oscars finally came around town. I think they were originally postponed. There was a moment there where it looked like we might not have even had an Oscars because so many films were being pushed back. It was like, are we gonna have to start showing like student short films at the Oscars? But
Yeah, or it's all just gonna be Netflix movies.
yeah, right. So which I mean, it basically was because everything on the
Yeah,
Oscars
seriously.
was, it felt like original streaming service type movies. But yeah, we finally had the Oscars this past weekend. Did anything
Ooh.
surprise you about the weekend
Anything surprised me about the
or
Oscars?
the Oscars? Yeah, sorry.
I actually didn't get to watch the whole show, so I showed up like right as they were doing Best Picture. So I saw the last three categories. And so just because of that, what surprised me right away was just Best Actor.
Yeah, I think that's the one that a lot of people. There's a lot of controversy, I think, surrounding Best Actor. Um, the betting favorite was actually
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman because of his untimely death, and so I think a
Well, not only
lot of
that, but
people.
they had basically built the whole show around Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
Not only was that the last category, but they had the stupid freaking NFT they were selling, which is just dumb.
Yeah, NFT is
It's
it's a
dumb.
NFT is such a
Dumb.
weird thing, but yeah, there's
It's big dumb.
a lot of I think that was probably the biggest surprise of the evening was Chadwick Boseman, I guess, being snubbed per se over Anthony Hopkins
Well,
getting the
I
award
mean,
instead of him.
what I've heard, so I haven't seen either movie, but from what I've heard, the I think the main controversy is that on the one hand, they gave it or they didn't give it to Chadwick, despite the fact that they basically seemed to be saying the whole show we're gonna honor and give him the award for
Yeah.
free. But I've also heard people say that like if you saw the Anthony Hopkins movie, it was the best performance of the year, and to that degree, it depends on what you think the Oscars should do. If you think it should like actually go to almost an objectively best performance, then maybe it makes sense for Anthony Hopkins to win it. But if you think it should just be like showcasing, honoring, or highlighting important parts of film throughout the year, then Chadwick Boseman should have gotten it for sure. Especially because the precedent is set that they give it to dead actors.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it most famously with Heath Ledger, right?
Heath Ledger.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the most famous one.
Which we also had, we were debating whether or not that was even the best performance in the category.
Right. Yeah.
And if it was, then he would have deserved it. And they didn't just give it to him because he died. I feel like the Oscars were basically putting their foot down with this. They're like, Chadwick Boseman is a cool guy, and it sucks he died, but we're not just going to give him the award for that. Which, kind of disrespectful to some degree to still sell the NFT when
Yeah,
you do that at the end
I
of
think
your
I
show.
can see both sides of the argument where it's like, because let's be real, the Academy Award was doing this to sell the event,
Yeah.
right? They were trying to market
Yeah.
it that way, that we were going to honor Chadwick Boseman, which, he deserves to be. He's a phenomenal actor in a lot of his works. He is the Black Panther, who is a extremely influential figure, especially nowadays in pop culture.
Yeah.
But I think I can also see the Academy saying, okay, just because, he had an untimely death, that doesn't affect our voting. And so I think either way, the Academy was going to lose on their decision. I
Yeah.
think the Academy decided
Possibly.
just to look out for themselves and to make sure that they don't set that precedent for future shows.
My only issue is that if they were going to do that, don't sell the NFT.
Yeah,
Get that out of here.
and I would
What are
agree
you
with
doing?
that. I would agree with that. I think it's distasteful to
It's whack.
market. Yeah. Plus NFT. What even is NFT? We're gonna switch this to a a financing podcast
It's
for
a
like 5 minutes.
Non-fungible token. Yeah.
Is that the artwork, the digital artwork?
Yes.
Sounds stupid. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty dumb.
And I can go on the whole hour and a half rant on NFTs right now, but
Maybe we'll
needless
start
to
another
say,
podcast.
they're bad. They're bad for the environment, and the Oscars should feel bad for selling one. I will say this though: what I liked about the Oscars was the vibe. I really liked how low key it was. I really liked how every person who won just kind of went up, said what they had to say, and left without really much else. No fanfare. I appreciate that.
Mhm. They did because they didn't have. I didn't watch the show. They didn't have audience, right? Like they didn't have a.
Nope.
It was just the nominees.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think. I don't know. Again, I didn't watch the show, so I can't say. But sometimes these shows go on for so long. I think.
Yeah.
I think the last Oscar I watched, it was like 3.5 hours. I was like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah. If there's one thing that had to change about the Oscars, they had to get rid of the musical numbers.
Yeah, the musical, and then every host has to have like a 5 minute like stand up sketch.
Yeah.
It's like we don't
Oh, yeah.
we don't need that. Like let's just get on with the awards. Did you watch any of the films that were nominated?
No.
No. Yeah,
Not at all.
and I don't blame you. I think this is definitely we've talked about this before where the Oscars goes through like one or two like super solid years and then they'll kind of be on a
They have little
it'll just take a
slumps and
big
dips.
dip. This year is a big
Yeah.
dip just because like I mentioned earlier, every single studio pushed back their film release
Yeah.
dates to either later 2021 or early 2022.
I mean, I've I didn't see any of the films nominated, but I've heard good things about like Nomadland, so I'll probably end up watching it anyway. But it was not on my radar beforehand.
I think the one that
So
I want to see the most is probably Judas and the Black Messiah with Daniel Kaluuya. Is that how you say? I don't know if that's how you say his name. He actually won supporting actor. So did you see what Elton John said about the Oscars, the venue?
No, not at all.
Because you know how they changed the venue this year.
Yeah.
He he said it looked like the awards were being hosted in Starbucks.
That's pretty funny. Honestly, I would watch that. I would watch
All
that.
right, and for the 95th annual Oscars, we are here at the McDonald's on Hollywood Boulevard, and
We're coming to you from the LA Public Library. And the other film I'll watch is best foreign film went to Druk or Drunk. Another Round by Thomas Vinterberg. He's the director with Mads Mikkelsen. Thomas Vinterberg is one of those guys where if he has a film, I have to watch it because he's always on point. He is a fantastic director, really really good director, and he works
Danish?
with Danish, and he works with Mads Mikkelsen quite a bit.
oh, you know what? I've seen clips of this. Yeah. I've seen it on Instagram. Yeah, you know if it's on one
Okay.
of those Instagram film pages, that's how you know it's a good movie.
I guess.
Cool,
Is that really your bar, your metric?
No, not at all. They have Joker 2019 on there, so no.
Oh my god. Lamau.
Speaking of Joker 2019, I guess we'll get back to our. Any last words on the Oscars? Disappointing year for sure, but I can't really fault that for the Oscars because of the pandemic.
Do you think that the Oscars even have like a shelf life in the future?
What do you mean?
Like, do award shows even have a place anymore in general? Because every single year, and it doesn't matter if it's the Oscars, it's the Grammys, it's the Emmys. Every single year, the ratings are down 25% what they were last year.
Yeah, well, I think the problem with the Oscars, and I think we've started to see this probably midway through the 2010s is they just pick films that aren't commercially popular. And I'm not saying like, look, I don't think the Avengers should be on here. I think the fact that Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture is it's whatever. But I think that's why you get it because I mean, let's be real. How many people have seen Minari or My Octopus Teacher? Like the most popular film was probably either Nomadland, Judas and the Black Messiah, or Soul. So
I think what you're trying to say is that as film opens up into more like as commercial film is able to spread into niche categories, the Oscars begins nominating and recognizing even more niche films, which becomes harder for it to hold commercial weight for anyone.
Exactly, that's what I think. And I think that's why last year was such a good year because all films that were, I don't want to say good year as like an objective term, but why there was a lot of buzz about last year was because we had a lot of commercially popular films. We had Parasite, we had 1917, we had Joker, we had Tarantino's film. What is it?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We had the Greta Gerwig film with Saoirse Ronan.
Lady Bird.
Yeah, no, not Lady Bird. Someone with Emma Watson. Little Woman.
Oh, okay.
Little Women. Sorry. Little Women. So these were all films that people watched.
And they apparently I didn't see the last one.
Super niche, right? They weren't like these were all very accessible films. And I think the Oscar, for better or worse, everybody can have their differing opinions on it. I think they're starting to shy away from going towards the more accessible films and starting to highlight these independent films. But I also think the Oscar just has a problem because I think a lot of people have a lot of issues with these, upper class, rich people kind of just patting themselves on the back for 3.5 hours. And I think that's a real thing now.
Well, I also, what I was going to say was that as the films they recognize become more and more independently produced, I think in some ways that's good because you get films like Minari, right? Which people probably wouldn't even have heard of it if it wasn't nominated for an Oscar, even though it had Steve Ewan in it and most people know him. So that's like a good thing, but I definitely get the vibe that you're talking about and how that turns people off and I understand that.
Yeah. Like do you think Nomadland in any other year would be nominated for an Oscar? And I guess this is more kind of the question or the issue of the pandemic is would these films in any other year be nominated? I'm leaning towards no.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see any of them. Nomadland, most likely because it ended up winning. So, but I would have to watch.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm sure
because I just never got there was never a lot of buzz behind these films, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. It's kind of hard to get buzz.
Well, I think that comes with them being really, really niche. Like for me, there was a lot of hype around Minari because it's about South Koreans in America, and my family is just hype about stuff like that. But outside of that, I didn't even know anything about Nomadland, and it ended up winning. So what can I? Well, what can I say?
Only thing I saw about Nomadland was Frances McDormand, that like spot on Hulu where she's like, "There's rocks." And I was like, okay, I think I can skip this movie if this is all we're gonna show about this movie.
A little judgmental, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's like I think that doesn't get just because you're shouting "There's rocks," that doesn't get me hype. But I mean, that's just me being cynical.
Probably
about what kind of films I watch.
Probably. Do you have any last thoughts about the Oscars?
No, I think that's it, man. I think it's a down year for sure, but hopefully we get some good films 2021. Moving on to our main topic of today, which kind of goes in play with the Oscars.
Oh yeah,
remakes and reboots. That is a very, very popular topic. It seems to kind of dominate the box office every week. Well, I don't want to say every weekend, but pre-pandemic, it felt like there was a new remake or reboot
Oh yeah.
coming out at least once a month. It felt like, right?
Yeah. Or sequel in general.
Yeah, or a sequel. I think Disney is the more popular one, but I think there
worst
are a lot of
offender.
remakes and reboots. Yeah, I think they're definitely the worst offender, but I think there are a surprising amount of remakes and reboots that people don't really realize are remakes and reboots.
Most superhero movies.
Yeah, most superhero movies, and a lot of dramas, even some Academy Award winners,
Oh yeah.
which I guess we'll get into later.
Can I ask you this?
Ask me.
In general, when you see or when you know beforehand that a film is a remake, does that give you different expectations for that movie?
If I saw the original, yes. I think probably the most famous example, or not, I don't want to say most famous example, but the example that sticks out in my head right now is RoboCop. The 2014 remake with the guy who was in the Suicide Squad. That's what I know him as.
Good job.
Because I'll be honest, when I saw Joel Kinnaman,
Yeah.
he was in Suicide Squad. He was in House of Cards too. Because I'll be honest, when I saw the original trailer for the 2014 remake, I was like, "Oh my god, this is stupid. Like, why do we have to remake RoboCop?" And then I actually watched RoboCop, and I was like, you know what? It's not bad. And I think a lot of people that hate on the new RoboCop, I think they're so blinded by nostalgia for the original. I'm not saying the new RoboCop is amazing or whatever, but it's not. I mean, I think a lot of people hold RoboCop to a higher standard than it needs to be. I think they think it's like this
The RoboCop elitists of the world.
Yeah, it's like this world-breaking, like genre-bending kind of film. And it's like, nah, it's just a fun action film. And I think the remake kind of it lives up to the original. I will say that much.
Well, I think in my experience, most people just inherently their default position is that remakes are bad because go watch the original.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to redo this when the original still is just as fine. But I do believe that there is a point where you can remake something and still keep the spirit of the original, I guess I want to say. Especially if it's an old movie, like a really old movie, like RoboCop.
Yeah, like if you're still mad because this 1920 silent film is being remade in 2025, you need to get off your high horse. Like,
yeah.
But if it's like 10 years ago and we're remaking a film, I think I could definitely see the issue with that. Like, there's talks of the Harry Potter films being remade into a TV series. And I'm like, we're not even like
we're not that
15
far removed.
years. Yeah. So a lot of people who grew up with those films are still they're not gonna want to watch the TV show, and rightfully so, I think. Which way do you lean when you hear remakes? Do you lean more towards
negative?
Why are we doing this? Or okay.
And it's almost always usually my relationship with remakes is it's a foreign film that's being remade into an American film. Because when it comes to old movies, old like American movies being remade or modernized, I don't always have an issue with that. I understand it. Like, I understood why they redid Godzilla. I understood, not the Matthew Broderick one. I don't know why they did that one. But the Bryan Cranston one, I understand why they did. Because the 1990 one sucked. That was why they redid it.
Yeah, it'd been so long since we had a good Godzilla.
Or True Grit by the Coen brothers, which was a John Wayne movie. I can see why they redid that one.
Scarface in the 80s.
Scarface, yeah.
That's another big one. A lot of people don't know Scarface was a remake from the, I believe, the 40s. It was originally about an Italian mobster during the Prohibition era, and they redid it. You want to talk about remakes that do it right? That is probably the remake that does it arguably the most right, as far as taking the feel and the themes of the original and modernizing it to the times that it's being made. Because the original was an Italian mobster during the Prohibition era, and the Al Pacino one is Cubans during the cocaine crisis of the 80s. But it still has that same, like, I remember watching it in class and being like, oh my god, this is, it gets beat for beat.
It's like the same movie.
Al Pacino, yeah, it's the same movie. It's just different settings.
Yeah,
and different.
It's like 4 decades earlier. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I was really surprised in how much Scarface stood out to me as far as like a top tier remake.
I mean, when it comes to remaking foreign movies, I think the outcome is almost wholly negative. There are definitely examples of films where I won't even bother watching the original because I think the American remake is just so much better. Like The Departed by Scorsese. You know?
Yep. A lot of people probably don't know that one's a remake too.
Yeah. But it's such a good, like, you don't even have to know it's a remake. For it to really mean anything.
Or The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. That's a
with Samurai. Even though the Seven Samurai is such a good film.
Well, yeah, that's definitely one of those examples. That's like a weird exception to every criticism people have of. Well, okay. What's funny, and I remember when this came out, there was Seven Samurai, the original Japanese film. Then there's the American remake, Magnificent Seven. Then there's like a 2016 remake of that original American remake.
Yeah, with it has Chris Pratt and who is it?
Who cares who else is in it? Because it shouldn't even be a film that has been put out into the world. That's an example where I'm like, you did not have to do this.
You go too far.
You don't remake the remake.
I would agree with that. Speaking of going too far, I guess we kind of we got to talk about the big kahuna in the building.
Disney?
These Disney live action, man. What is going on with them?
So everybody knows what's going on with them, though. Every single time one of these comes out, people are like, oh, there's Disney capitalizing on nostalgia.
Go and watch it.
My issue is that people still watch them. I have not seen a single one of those films out of principle because I don't care.
No, I've refused point blank to watch those films. Like I've been offered to go see Lion King. I've been offered to go see the Mulan. It's like I'm not doing that. It is everything that's wrong with the over commercialization of film. And it kind of comes off pretentious when I say that, but it's true. It's
especially when your main criticism of the Oscars was it's not commercial enough.
Yeah, but I think Disney goes too far in the opposite direction. They are just trying to do soulless cash grabs. I've watched clips here and there. I don't feel any passion behind those films whatsoever. Maybe The Jungle Book, but even The Jungle Book, I was so bored watching it. That's the only one I've seen beginning to end.
My big issue is that they're remaking films that are already too popular. Like The Jungle Book, I'm actually fine with them remaking that one because I feel like Jungle Book is actually one that, like, if you didn't grow up watching it, you probably don't even know about it.
Yeah, that was me. That's why I went to go watch it.
Yeah, but Mulan doesn't have to be remade because people are still going to show their kids Mulan. Mulan will still play on Disney Channel, like...
Or Aladdin. Yeah. Aladdin's one of the... If you're remaking the 7 or 6 princesses, I think it's time to reevaluate your plan. I think you should not touch those films. And I'm talking, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Jasmine, Mulan, and Ariel. Those 6 right there you should not touch. And Princess and the Frog, so 7. Those films are so good as they are. You can keep the character animated and it still holds up well.
But Treasure Planet, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Treasure Planet. We just need Treasure Planet needs an actual marketing push because the research behind that I did for Treasure Planet, they just let that movie die, and it's a shame because that's probably their best movie, their best animated movie for sure.
One of them, yeah, for sure. No, Treasure Planet, they could remake, and I probably wouldn't be mad. Hunchback of Notre Dame, they could remake, even though that's probably my favorite Disney movie. I don't know.
Pocahontas,
I feel like
and give it actual historical facts. I would remake Pocahontas.
Pocahontas?
They make it actual based in history.
Hey man, the Terrence Malick film.
How do you feel about the? How do you feel about Hercules?
Are they remaking that? Are they remaking that? Because I was just thinking I was going to name that film, and I was like, do they need to remake it? No, they don't. But if they actually are, that's hilarious.
It's circulating.
Oh, okay.
It's gaining popularity.
I wouldn't be really mad about that one either. I feel like that would actually be cool to see in live action.
Can we name him Heracles? Can we give him his actual name instead of Hercules?
Doesn't in like the actual Greek mythology he like kills his wife or something like that, like immediately after they get married?
I don't know, but all I know is Hercules is the Roman version, yet the gods are Greek in the Disney film.
What are you doing, Disney?
So can we either name him his Greek name or can we give us Roman gods? I don't know. I'm just nitpicking. I'm just messing around.
But yeah, no, Disney. It's just I feel like most people are on the same page. The only issue is people are still watching them.
Like Aladdin. $1.05 billion. Dude,
it's all that Will Smith money.
I mean, basically, yeah. See, but my issue with it, and I think a lot of people, their counter argument is, well, you're giving the film to a younger audience. These movies have been around forever. So it's not like they don't age well, the originals, right?
Well, my question would be...
Aladdin was in the 90s.
Yeah, true.
Jungle Book was in the 90s. The princess movies are all in the 30s and 40s, and people still know them.
I mean, what parent grew up and enjoys those films isn't then going to just show them to their kids?
That's what I'm saying, though. Why do we need these remakes? Like, I think the argument that, oh, well, it's a remake and, we're showing the younger... I don't think that holds up.
Yeah.
I think that's a weak argument.
We needed the Fantasia
because one of the most popular films of all time, The Wizard of Oz, they did it right. Every time there was a new format for their film to be released to the home audience, whether that was VHS, DVD, and now Blu-ray,
they did that.
They always came out with a new edition, like a new limited edition or special edition.
Yeah. And
so every generation got a new version of the film. So why can't we do that for the animated movies? It bothers me a lot.
Yeah. No, I totally understand it. I think it bothers most people.
I will say, for Mulan, I do appreciate them going the opposite route of not having
it's not
the
a
musical
comedy.
Numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's more of a straight line drama.
I appreciate it as a risk.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't think it worked out. I think it was
trash.
The actress I think she's very bland, but I do appreciate that risk taking that they tried to. Because I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh, why are they gonna remake it if they're not even gonna have the music and there's no Mushu?"
Yeah.
But then those same people are complaining when it's just a shot for shot remake. Like The Lion King. But getting off the Disney high horse, you want to know some remakes that aren't very good?
Boy, do I know some.
Well, okay, before we get into... Well, I guess we should stick with bad ones. Did you ever see Dave Harbour's Hellboy?
Hellboy, oh my god. Was that the first Hellboy movie or no?
No, that's the second. So the first one is with...
That's Guillermo del Toro,
Ron
right?
Perlman.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Del Toro.
Then the second one I did not see.
The third one... There were two of them.
Yeah.
With Ron Perlman. And then there was a new one with Harbour. Dude, it is bad.
Is
It
it?
is so bad. It is such a mess.
What?
It's not even bad from a subjective point of view. It is bad. The editing is bad. The pacing is bad. The directing is bad. The camera shots make no sense. The acting is terrible. The writing is terrible. Like, it is just a bad film.
But is it a reboot or is it just a sequel?
It's a reboot. It's a reboot.
It's a straight reboot, really?
Straight reboot. Yep.
That's one of those things. Okay, remaking a film
That's
from
why a
like,
lot of people were upset because they wanted Ron Perlman and Del Toro to come back for the third one.
well, here's the issue: remaking a film from like 20 or 30 years ago, I think, is fine. But the original Hellboy came out in like 2000 something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
So it's
my
not
cat
even
is
that
upset
old.
about that. Yeah.
And it's also when you have, like I said, when you have the audience wanting Del Toro and Perlman back, bring them back. Like, they're very talented director actor. And
Yeah.
obviously, I've never seen the Hellboys except for the newest one.
Oh, the original, the first movie is actually not that bad.
Yeah, I heard it was. I heard I was reading reviews on it, but it's not like these guys are dead.
No,
Like,
not at all.
they can still work.
Well, I also think part of it is just like if the studio has that franchise, if they own the rights to it. I mean, you would think they would say like, "Oh, well, Guillermo doesn't want to come back. We're fine with 2 films then." But
The Mummy.
that's another
That's
one.
another film where it's not even that old, and
No.
they still did it.
God.
Which, look, to be fair to the studio, I think it was it it's Universal. They were trying to, well, first, Brendan Fraser is no longer that, piece of hunk that he was back in the day when he filmed the original Mummies. So I can understand them not bringing him back for that. Okay, I understand.
Oh,
I get it. I've taken a couple classes with professors talking about the marketability of their actors.
yeah. Mm.
That being said, though, The Mummy is bad. I watched a couple clips. It's not that good
I
compared
don't
to the
think
original.
the original is that good anyway.
They went in a completely different tone. Like the original Mummies were kind of fun. They're like the Nat Geo,
Yeah.
or not Nat Geo, National Treasure kind of
Yeah.
films where it's like stupid fun.
Yeah, a very
The
90s
Mummy tries to
version
be
of Stupid
serious,
Fun.
and the Mummies, the Tom Cruise one, they try to take themselves seriously, and it's just, it doesn't fit the tone. And that's what I was saying earlier was when you remake a film, you need to fit the tone of the original, but also modernize it to the times. And this
Yeah.
film, the Tom Cruise movie, did not do that at all. I mean, it canceled they tried to do a whole monster universe.
Yeah.
They wanted to do like The Mummy, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Werewolf, Dracula, I think was going to be in it. They wanted to do this
Jeez.
whole cinematic universe, and it just because The Mummy failed so bad, they canceled all
That's
that.
hilarious. Oh god. What do they expect would happen though? You see, that's one of those. There's almost an art to remaking a movie, like from a marketing point of view, because like they did a 2016 Ben-Hur. No one is going to watch Ben-Hur in 2016. No one's even going to watch the original unless they want to.
Yeah.
So you can't expect people to already want to see that unless they're like hardcore film nerds and cinephiles.
Well, it's also like Blade Runner. Blade Runner is more of 2049. It was more of a sequel than a reboot, but
Which I think was smart.
It falls under that same principle, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people saw the original Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So what was Sony thinking to make a sequel to a film nobody saw and give it a $250 million budget?
Not only that, but an original film that the theatrical version everyone hated, and it was only the people willing to watch the director cut that loved the film. But not only that, but I think it was so smart they did it as a sequel. I think that was smart. Because then it's like you're rebooting it, you're bringing it back, but you're not trying to do the original story. This is a sequel, so you already know it's going to be different. And I think that's much more attractive.
You know, it's another film that did that very smartly. Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
Mad Max, a lot of people don't know this. That's a sequel to the Mel Gibson films. It's not a reboot. A lot of people think it's a reboot, like a hard reboot. It's
Yeah.
a soft reboot,
Just
and I think Mad Max did that very smart as well.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Which that's kind of why I'm upset about the Hellboy one, even though I hadn't heard of that before. Like, don't reboot it. Just make a third film.
Hmm.
The comics, do something else. Do The Wild Hunt, do Hellboy in Hell. I don't care. Don't reboot something that whatever. Who cares?
Speaking of remakes, did you know your favorite movie of all time is a remake?
My favorite
Or
movie
favorite
of all time.
favorite musical, I should say.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
No, not Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Wait, is it really Charlie in the Chocolate Factory?
That is a remake, yeah. The Johnny Depp one.
Oh yeah, I know that's a remake.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Sound of Music.
Sound of Music.
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. It's crazy. I was doing some research on
Wait.
remakes.
When did the original one come out then? Because that one came out in like the 19... Like,
I think it came out like a year or two before.
that's ridiculous if that's even remotely true.
That's crazy, right? And probably nobody knows it's a remake.
Wow.
That was my most surprising. But that brings me to my next topic. What are some remakes that do it right?
Remakes.
I mean,
that
we
do it
mentioned
right?
The
We mentioned
Departed. We
Departed.
mentioned
Yeah.
we mentioned Sound of Music. We mentioned, well, I mentioned RoboCop and Scarface.
Yeah.
Do you have any others?
I would say...
Can I throw you a couple?
here's the thing, though. And I'll say this beforehand. Oftentimes, when a remake is better than the original, most people don't bother watching the original. Like, I know Ocean's 11 is a remake, but I just won't watch the original because I know that the George Clooney one is just, for what
Better.
I've seen, better. Yeah. Or like
What
310
is Ocean's
to Yuma.
11 a remake of?
It's a remake of
there
Ocean's
another
11. Yeah.
Really?
It was like an old like film noir, like Humphrey Bogart movie.
Oh, it has the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Ah,
So maybe
that's
it's worth watching for that reason.
cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sinatra, Martin, Davis Jr., Lawford. Planet of the Apes. How do you feel about that? Those
That's
films?
a good one.
The new one.
That's a good one because what I think they did it's almost like there wasn't a market for that movie, but it created the market for it.
Yeah,
You know?
those. I remember watching those in theaters and being extremely impressed by them.
What I think they did well too was they expanded upon the original movie.
Yeah.
They didn't really just
And they're
straight
not-
remake it.
And they also did themselves a favor because they're prequels. They're not
Yeah.
sequels, right?
Yeah.
Because the original movie was set in the future when the apes already took over Earth.
Yeah. This is back.
We
in
get
the
to see
past.
that happen. Yeah. So I think they did that. I think they did a good spin on it, and obviously they modernized it with camera techniques
And
and
then they made it a freaking trilogy because everything
plots
has to be
and
a trilogy.
themes. That's the one. I'm not even kind of mad that was a trilogy though.
I'm not either, actually.
They were solid blockbusters.
Yeah.
I was for movies about monkeys. I was very surprised.
LMAO. And yeah, you didn't like the Jungle Book remake? What are you doing?
I think I just had more problem. Yeah, I don't know.
How do you feel about most horror movie reboots and remakes?
That was gonna be my next question. I hate them. The only one I liked in the past 20 years is probably the Halloween that just came out with they brought back why is it
Jamie
I'm
Lynn
so bad
Spears.
with names. Yeah, Jamie Lynn
Jamie Lee
Spears.
Curtis,
there
I
you go.
think.
Thank
Is her, Jamie Lee Curtis, not Jamie Lynn Spears.
you. Jamie Lynn Spears. What is
Yeah.
this?
This is Zoe 101 with Michael Myers. But no, yeah, they brought back
Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. When they brought back Jamie Lee Curtis, I think that was probably that one. You want to talk about another film that takes the original and modernizes it? That does it beautifully.
Oh, really? I
It's got
actually
Holes in it, but that's just mainly because it's a horror movie. But I really enjoyed that, and I don't like horror movies at all.
Oh, really?
But I enjoyed that one.
Dude, I love horror
Yeah.
movies. I kind of unironically also like the old Rob Zombie Halloweens. Those remakes. Even though
See, but
people hate those and they're trash.
yeah,
It's good trash, I'd say.
The problem is they took slashers, old school slashers, and they turned them into torture porn.
Yeah, yeah.
And that just doesn't fit the aesthetic of those movies at all. Like we saw, with the Rob Zombie, we saw with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Every
that
single
came out in the
freaking
mid
Texas
2000s.
Chainsaw Massacre film they've remade.
Yeah, we saw, even though the original was not torture porn whatsoever,
No.
they decided to make it torture porn. We saw that with the Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, I don't like horror movies that much, but torture porn to me is like the lowest of the low as far as horror film goes. I like a good suspenseful movie. I like The Conjuring. I like Conjuring. Halloween, the new Halloween, and all the old slashers are fun.
What do you think about some of the Stephen King horror movie remakes? Like they did Pet Sematary was a remake.
Yeah, Pet Sematary was trash.
It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The Stand has a TV show, which I've heard was okay at best.
So It Chapter 1 was good. It Chapter 2 I was so bored.
Yeah.
And I think it's because It Chapter 1 had the kids.
And they were adults in Chapter 2.
And they were adults in Chapter 2, so it's kind of like, hey, why don't you guys just like grow up? And that's the problem that people had with the original TV movie too, was they liked the kids more, they didn't like the adults.
Even though I've heard the book is not bad, I guess it doesn't translate that well to film.
Yeah, I have the book actually. 900 pages. Still haven't opened it.
And then they did a TV show for The Stand, which is like I think the copy that I have is like 1,300 pages.
Jesus Christ. Stephen King needs a hobby besides writing.
Dude, he's a baseball fan. That's his hobby. Trust me. You ever read a Stephen King book, it'll be filled with baseball.
He needs to take up like gambling or stock trading or something to occupy his day. How do you feel about the superhero reboots that we're getting? Or that we kind of gotten and are still getting?
Because
yeah,
I remember we were praising Batman Begins for being a good film, but that's a reboot of an entire franchise.
Yep. Yeah.
So
that's you want to talk about hard reboots? That's a hard reboot.
Yeah.
Man of Steel.
Okay, so I like Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I like it is because I don't like any of the old Superman films. They're just way too cheesy and just they don't hold up in my opinion. If Superman can fly around the Earth and reverse the axis and spin of the Earth, I'm like, I will believe anything else before I believe that.
Yeah, Man of Steel, I think, is another one where people kind of let nostalgia blind them. Because Man of Steel, I was surprised on how mixed reviews it is.
It's basically a hard reboot as well.
Yeah.
But people don't really see it that way.
I mean, it started the DC universe, right?
The era of the DC universe that we're in, at least.
Yeah. I think people don't appreciate Man of Steel for what it is.
True.
It brings flaws to a character who has no flaws. And if we had a character who had no flaws, they'd be boring.
They would be Rey from the Star Wars films.
Yeah. So
it's a hot take.
Exactly.
I have a rant now to go on.
Okay, give it to me.
Because there's times in which I have had viscerally negative reactions to remakes are usually when they're foreign films. Because oftentimes we've praised films that have done it correctly, like The Departed, which I think was originally a Chinese film, or maybe it was Taiwanese. But so often it's done so poorly. Like Old Boy, for example. The original Korean Old Boy directed by Park Chan-wook, which, by the way, is an adaptation anyway of a manga series. But the original Korean just has this like coolness to it that almost just, I don't know. The American remake. That was one of those things where I saw the American remake and I was like, most people in America love the original Korean film. They're not going to watch this remake. And then guess what? No one watched it. And the people who did hated it. Who would have thunk it? That's just so pointless. Or like the freaking Ghost in the Shell remake with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, that one had problems from the jump.
That one had problems from the jump. Yeah, for real. Another issue I have with a lot of remakes is, how do I want to say this? there's a type of drama film, like drama, like in foreign films, is actually very different from a lot of American movies. Like if you think of Oscar bait type of drama films, that is almost a separate genre from the type of stuff you can get from a lot of European films, specifically European films, I want to say. And so oftentimes there are films that get remade in America that were dramas, but in a weird way, that drama doesn't translate to English, to American actors. The two big examples I have are there was a, what was it? I think it was Swedish film called Force Majeure, which was directed by Ruben Ostlund, I think. He directed The Square, for anyone who knows Cannes Film Festival, which won the Palme d'Or. But Force Majeure was about a family that takes a vacation to a ski resort. And then during an avalanche, the father abandons the family, and it becomes this like family drama, pretty much. The problem was when they remade it into America in like 2019, I think, and it was a Will Ferrell comedy. And I was like, hold up here. Did that was that really the direction that film had to be taken? Like, most Americans probably don't know the original Force Majeure, the original Swedish film. That's forgivable because only people who really care about foreign films are going to seek something like that out. But most Americans aren't going to care about a Will Ferrell dramedy about him at a ski resort. Like, what's the expectation here? It almost like the original film almost had a bigger market in America just as a foreign film than the American remake has in America as a drama.
So do you want to know how much the Will Ferrell remake made?
How much?
8.9 million.
What was its budget?
Doesn't say.
Oof.
So when they don't release the budget, that's how you know it's
probably. Maybe, yeah.
That's how you know it was not. They knew it was gonna fail from the beginning.
There was also there was a Danish movie called After the Wedding, which is actually Mad Mikkelsen's film. I love Mad Mikkelsen's, if you can't tell, by the way. And it was a family drama, and I'm not going to give away the plot twist because the original Danish film, directed by Suzanne Bier, I want to say Biers. I don't speak Danish. Is a really, really good family drama movie, which is not easy to recommend, but I would recommend After the Wedding. But my big issue with the American remake was you could tell the aesthetic differences between Denmark and America just by comparing these two films. Where the original Danish film is filmed entirely on handheld camera with entirely natural light, and the American film is like this super clinical, sleek kind of style. I'm like, you lose so much of the personal interest just by the cinematography alone. I just saw the preview for it in the theater, and I was like, well, not watching that anymore. Thanks for letting me know that exists. I didn't need to know that.
Yeah, I think American studios have a tendency to over-Americanize foreign films. I mean, sometimes it works, like the Magnificent Seven and Departed, and sometimes it works, like you mentioned.
But what about those films? I mean, okay, The Magnificent Seven is, like I said, it's the exception to basically every rule because it's hardly a remake. It's hardly a remake. It takes a samurai film and makes it a Western that is just aesthetically such an incredible difference that I think
you can differentiate them.
Yeah, you can definitely differentiate them. I mean, with the Departed, the original Chinese film was still a cop drama, nonetheless, a police procedural. I think where the Departed succeeds is that they just went so hard in on all aspects of it being a crime film. Maybe it was definitely the Boston accents, though. I can tell you that much.
Who are you?
Yeah,
This is Sergeant. I need to speak to Sergeant Dignam.
that's why I think that one works, is because where I see remakes of foreign films succeed is really in the films that are almost just unapologetically American about it. Like trying to preserve something of the original, I actually think is it's counterintuitive, but I think that if you're trying to preserve the original in your remake, you're already losing, because you should be remaking it to bring something new to the original, as opposed to.
I agree.
Like that's where I think the argument. Yeah, just go see the original.
It's like we said when we were talking about. For those who don't know, who maybe didn't watch, when we were talking about Christopher Nolan's career, they want to remake Memento.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes about one of the, I forget, it was the producer or the director who signed on or whatever. They said, we want to remake this, but we want to make it the way Christopher Nolan would make it. And just from that quote, we could both tell this is going to be dog shit.
Yeah.
Because to admit that we want to remake it like Christopher Nolan made it, Christopher Nolan already made it.
He
Give us something new.
What kind of grandfather paradox is this that they've locked themselves into?
Exactly. Like, we've seen the kind of film he would make.
Yes, it's the
so
original.
What can you do? What can you do differently that would make us want to go sit in a theater or sit at home and watch this?
You know what's hilarious too? And I was thinking about this earlier today. Insomnia is a remake of a foreign film, and we both agreed that it was like his worst film because it just didn't feel right.
And I think a lot of that is probably because
it's not
it was
his
over-Americanized.
Film.
Yeah.
Well, not that it was just over-Americanized. It was just, it didn't come across like
an American drama.
I think you had said something where you had said that it was like, it felt handpicked. It felt like the studio was just saying, we bought the rights to this foreign film. We just want to get a remake of it. And maybe Christopher Nolan, maybe it failed because I think Christopher Nolan tried to keep some of that original, you know, he said it in the Pacific Northwest, so it's all dark and cold. And it's like, maybe that
film does.
It's not the direction.
Does not feel like a Nolan film.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you.
Give me a question.
What do you think about films like Dune, where the attempt to remake them has kind of become the point of remaking them? Between David Lynch's Dune, the unmade Hodorowski Dune, and the current Denis Villeneuve Dune.
Well, Dune is a weird thing because it has already been tried to become a movie twice and has failed both times. So the fact that we're even getting a trailer for the third one is a pretty good sign.
It's like the white whale for some studios, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think Dune's issue lies in that it's a book and a lot of it's hard to make a book into a movie anyways, but that film deals with a lot of internal stuff that the character goes through. So I think that's going to be kind of hard for a film. As far as how do I feel about them remaking it? I think if it was anyone other than Villeneuve, I think I wouldn't be into it. But because it's Villeneuve and he's had this, I hope I'm saying that right, because he's had such a long, this long track record, he's probably the hottest working director right now, I would say.
I actually think that his success with Blade Runner 2049 is probably what got him this film. Being able to prove that he could handle a reboot or a sequel to something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I agree because Blade Runner 2049, for all of its faults, it is still
technically better than most films that I think came out that year.
Yeah, it is still a solid sci-fi film. And I think it was such an ambitious, for a guy who was at that point really grounded in telling stories that were kind of realistic and raw, for him to go on something like Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival I think it showed that he could do this. So I think I'm excited for Dune. I really am. I think it'll be, I don't know what to think of it because the book is so crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to translate as well on this screen.
Well, I think Dune is such a weird film because the David Lynch film was trash and everybody thought it was trash. But then they tried to remake it and the director was going to be Jodorowsky, which if you're not familiar with Jodorowsky, imagine David Lynch on crack. That's Jodorowsky. But people love Jodorowsky. Whereas I think like very few people like openly admit they like David Lynch movies. Most people I know at least don't like David Lynch movies. But there was this huge there's this entire like cult following for this unmade Jodorowsky film. So it's like in a weird way, because that remake failed to even get off the ground. Like I said, it's been like a weird white whale where everyone is like, they have to remake Dune at some point. They have to do it at some point. They've tried to do it and it failed, and nobody likes the original. We want it remade. I definitely think Villeneuve, I trust him more than I trust either Lynch or Jodorowsky. But it's one of those things where I'm like, the precedent is there that it's been messed up every single time.
It's gonna fail. Yeah. I don't have. Well, I said I was excited. If it failed, I would not be surprised.
I'd be disappointed, but nonetheless, yeah, I would not be too surprised if it did, which kind of sucks. But that's just Dune. It's just cursed.
It's a weird book, but it's a good book. It's a good book. If you're not reading Dune, you should go read Dune. It's a good read. It's a lot of people say it's influential to
a lot of
every sci-fi. Yeah, every sci-fi movie and book that we've gotten. So
for sure.
Very solid.
What do you think about reboots and remakes that are TV shows?
I hate them.
Because I remember we were talking about the Powerpuff Girls being made into a live action show.
Yeah. Have you seen the set pictures?
No. Set
pictures leaked and it looks like dog shit. It looks so bad. God. There's no reason to remake a TV show. You want to talk about, I mean, there's no reason to remake movies from time to time, but there's no reason to remake a TV show. That's the whole kind of point of it, of being on TV, right?
Yeah.
You can watch multiple years of it and watch its development and watch the characters grow throughout the years. And
yeah.
It's an absolute farce to remake something, especially something like Powerpuff Girls, and make it live action. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Work? I can't see how that works. I don't care if you have the freaking special effects team behind Life of Pi. I don't see how that works.
I don't. It bothers me. It's an issue that we need to solve in the industry.
I think we just need to get rid of CW. No, I'm joking.
I'm going to run a political campaign on that. Abolish the CW.
They've had good shows. I heard they were going to remake Gossip Girl, and I was like, no, don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why do you need to remake Gossip Girl?
God, it's so...
What's another one I heard? Gossip Girl. I heard they're bringing back iCarly.
I think no. I think that was just a reunion.
Oh, are they just doing a reunion? Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good then. Okay. Reunion makes sense.
You want to talk about...
The Office. They want to do an Office movie.
An Office movie? Well, a movie I'm kind of okay with. If you take a TV show and you turn it into a movie, I think that can work. Especially since we spent last episode praising Scooby-Doo sky high for all its of movies. Their movies. Can definitely work. Here's an example though, a weird exception to the rule. Was what was it? It was like season 8 of Curb Your Enthusiasm, where the whole season was built around doing a Seinfeld
remake.
Yeah, they were bringing back Seinfeld, but it wasn't Seinfeld. It was the show Curb Your Enthusiasm. but it was all the original Seinfeld actors and stuff like that. And I was like, that's definitely the way to do it. That's a really rare exception. Oh, not only this, but also, oh god, okay, this hurts me as somebody who loves animation and cartoons, but there is a massive issue with remaking old cartoon shows. It happened to Powerpuff Girls. It's happened to the Looney Tunes. It was gonna happen
Teen
to
Titans.
Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy was gonna get a remake.
Animaniacs got one.
Animaniacs got one.
The Animaniacs one is funny though because in the first episode they straight up people, like, you know how Animaniacs always breaks the wall.
Yeah.
They straight up like in the first 10 minutes were like, why do we decide to come back again? And then there's like a big pile of cash behind them, and they're like, oh, that's why we decided to come back again.
Not
Yeah,
bad.
we're sellouts. It's okay.
That's funny. That's pretty funny. Samurai Jack kind of had one where they brought it back, but they just did
That
a
was
final
a
season.
sequel series, right?
Yeah, that was basically a sequel to a TV show, which is
Yeah.
weird. They just finished the show. That was it. They actually just gave it an ending, which I appreciated.
Speaking of reboots, Rugrats is getting one. We didn't talk about this last week with the animation. Rugrats is getting one. Have you seen the trailer for that?
No, not at all.
It looks, oh my god.
Okay.
It's
Don't
3D
act
animation and it looks,
Oh, it's 3D?
Terrible.
Wow.
yeah, it's bad.
Well, okay. I remember we were talking about Scooby-Doo and how each iteration is fresh and new. I feel like with a lot of these animated shows that are getting reboots for themselves, you really have to come at it with that angle of this is going to be fresh and new. Part of the reason why the live action remakes don't feel fresh and new is because they're not. They're so trite and full of themselves and self-serious. But like I remember I brought up Looney Tunes earlier. I've seen clips and segments of the Looney Tunes remake, and it's actually pretty freaking hilarious. So I think it kind of holds up, and I'm glad that they like are willing to remake the show because the original Looney Tunes was so great for experimentation and trying all these cool gags and challenges, like challenging yourself as a storyteller to tell a story this way. I think for the remake that they've made, they did a good job keeping that spirit. They're like, we still want to tell stories in a way that challenges us to be creative about it. But then you get like the Powerpuff Girls remake from 2016, where it's like Powerpuff Girls, but it's 3D and nothing has changed. And you're like, get out of here. And then one of the writers for the show got in trouble because he wrote himself into the show, but he was a love interest for one of the characters.
What the heck? That's weird.
Yeah, that was a bit of a yikes.
You want to hear some more remakes and reboots of TV shows that are coming before we move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So iCarly, apparently it's going to be a full-on revival.
But they're not going to have Sam because she gave up acting.
They're not going to have Sam.
She quit acting.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be on Paramount Plus, so that's how you know it's a good sign
So-
and it's going to be a quality show. Fairly Odd Parents and
trash.
Dora the Explorer.
Okay, Dora I can forgive because it's literally for toddlers. That makes sense, I think. Dora makes sense. Because the
Both
old
are going to
animation
Paramount
style
Plus.
is so bad. Paramount Plus, I don't know why they would do that. But Dora makes sense. I can forgive them for
Dexter is going to come back and try and redo that final season that people had problems about.
that. So is Game of Thrones going to get a comeback and they're going to redo their final season?
No, like Game of Thrones die.
Does HBO have $5 trillion they
prequel
can throw?
series. They are going to get some prequel series.
Oh my god. Man. Okay, here's
Pretty Little Liars is apparently getting a new version, a new series.
it should
Which is
actually be
weird. 'Cause
coherent.
didn't it just end like 5 years ago?
Here's the problem with Pretty Little Liars. It's one of those shows where you're like that's still on the air. I feel like it's ended, like every season is the end.
Yeah. True Blood is getting another series.
True Blood
But
is also
not-
one of those shows where I'm like,
It may not have the original cast, apparently.
I don't care about that at all. Just as a show that I would see on air, I'm like, this has to end. This has gone on for too long. It's like Lost. If you just
Cowboy
ended
Bebop
Lost
is
by
getting a
like
live action adaptation
as a movie or as a TV show,
as a TV show.
I don't know how I feel about that. Does it have
That's
Keanu
weird.
Reeves in it? Everyone wanted Keanu Reeves to play Spike. So if he's in it, then
So
maybe I'll watch it. But if not, then I don't care. You see, that's one of those things, though. Cowboy Bebop has the same issue that the Disney movies has. It's like the people who love the originals are gonna always show people the originals. They're never gonna go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't
No, I
have to
agree.
remake it. So I don't know. I'm preaching to the choir. This whole conversation, I feel like, is just
I agree. I agree with a lot of what you said. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is apparently getting a remake.
okay.
What?
But is it gonna have Jaden Smith instead of Will Smith?
This article makes no sense. Written, directed by Morgan Cooper. Reimagine the lighthearted series as a Ryan Coogler style gritty drama. What? That's not what Fresh Prince is.
Yeah.
Fresh Prince is a fun take on systemic issues. It's like a funny, like it's like a black comedy kind of.
Yeah.
Why would you make it into a Ryan Coogler? What kind of statement is that? Ryan Coogler style of gritty drama. I know what he's trying to say. Why does it have to say Ryan Coogler? Why can't he just say gritty drama?
Because
That's
it's his
stupid.
specific style.
I guess. I don't know. That's so dumb. Anyways, so those are just a little bit of TV shows that are being remade. Just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
I think
So
in
it's
general,
an issue that even stems to TV.
yeah, sadly. In general, in my opinion, and goes for TV or film, the issue with remakes and reboots is that they're really case by case. It's really hard to
Yeah.
say any blink, but like I can sit here and say I hate remakes of foreign films, but there are amazing remakes of foreign films.
Yep.
And I can sit here and I say that I hate reboots of old films, but there are great reboots that really add to the franchise.
I think there's 5. I would say there's 5 films you should never remake.
Yeah, what are
Other
they?
than that, I think. Oh, you want me to list them
what
right
are
now?
the 5 films? What, is this just
Damn,
a
I didn't think you were
general
actually gonna ask me. Now I gotta think about it. No, I'm just kidding. I would say I'm gonna put Godfather 1 and 2 together as one.
rule?
I'm
Okay.
kind of cheating.
No, that makes
I would
sense.
say Casablanca.
Okay.
I
Citizen
would
Kane,
say Citizen Kane. Yeah, that'd be number 3.
Paddington 2.
I've never seen those, so I don't know. Those are animated too, so I'm not too worried about those. Number 4 is Usual Suspects. No, I'm just
Beverly Hills Cops. Oh.
kidding. Beverly Hills
And
Chihuahua.
then number 5 is Rush Hour.
Well, they're coming out with a sequel to Rush Hour. They're coming out with number 4, which I'm pretty excited about.
Well, if it's a sequel, that's not bad.
Yeah, I'm
That's
pretty
fine.
excited about that one. That's another good trilogy. Lord of the Rings. I want to put that whole trilogy. As
Okay, what do you think
number
about
4.
the Amazon TV, the Amazon series they're gonna do? For
Is that gonna be a remake of the books, or is it gonna be like a prequel series with what Game of Thrones is doing?
I think
'Cause
it's
I was
gonna
under
be-
the impression that it's gonna be Game of Thrones style prequel.
that? I was under the impression it was gonna be a straight up remake of the books,
Yeah, that's stupid. Let me look it up.
which is confusing because the actual
The movies are the 3 of the greatest movies of all time. Why would you remake them?
well, not only that, but like the extended cuts of each 3 of the films, like it's almost the entirety of the book series. So that's already done in the films, which is why the extended cuts are all like 4 hours long each.
Oh,
but
okay. So it takes place before the books.
okay, but is it going to be The Hobbit or is it going to be like
No. So
So
it's
stories from
before.
the
It's even
Silmarillion.
before the Hobbit. Even before the Hobbit.
So it's going to be like a Silmarillion. It's going to be a remake
Similar?
of that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's gonna be like, you know how Game of Thrones, like I said, how Game of Thrones is doing their prequel series.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the same thing.
Mm.
It's supposed to take back millennia before the events of the Hobbit.
Wow. So it might be a Silmarillion. Similar.
Damn, the first season of the show is coming in around 450 million.
Not bad. That's like one Lord of the Rings film.
That's like all 3 of the Lord of the Rings films.
Silmarillion. That's
for
what it's
comparison. For comparison, a season of Game of Thrones, guess how much it cost?
Oh, it's in like the billions.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not that much.
200 million.
No.
500 million.
No, less.
Less?
Yeah, way less.
100 million.
Last guess. You were close. 90 million.
90 million.
So
That's
it's going to
not too
be, I don't even know what the math is on that. 5 times the amount? Yeah, 5 times the amount that Game of Thrones season was. That's crazy. That's a lot of money.
Not bad.
I'm okay with that, I think, because we're expanding the lore of the series.
Does your brain work the same way mine does? When you hear a film has a massive budget, you associate that with a film having a lot of special effects?
Yes.
I don't know why that is, but I just correlate the two.
Yeah. The only time I will not correlate that was with TV, where it's like Friends cost 10 million an episode.
Yeah.
But that's because the actors were like 8 of that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like Big Bang was the same thing, I think, where
Yeah.
Big Bang was close to 10 million an episode.
Jeez.
But all of that was the actors.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm okay with Lord of the Rings. Any last thoughts on remakes, reboots?
Go see the original Old Boy. And
Okay.
go see the original After the Wedding. Those
And
are
if
my two
any
recommendations for people.
And if any studio executive is listening to this, if you even think of remaking Godfather, Citizen Kane,
Or Rush Hour.
or Casablanca,
Or Beverly
will
Hills
hunt you
Cops.
or Beverly Hills Cops,
Yeah.
we will hunt you down.
Eddie Murphy
will
will
find
hunt you
you.
down.
And we will kill you. Hey, that's being remade into a TV series.
What?
Wasn't it? Taken?
Taken? Oh, no.
Or did it?
It shouldn't have
Got
been.
remade? I think it did.
How does that even work? Does a new person get taken every episode?
It did get remade. 2017. 2 seasons.
Wow.
That's
I had
weird.
No idea. That's insane.
That is so weird.
Does a
It was
new person
canceled.
get taken?
It was canceled after a year
Makes
on
sense.
TV.
Jeez.
Premiered February 27, 2017. Canceled May 11, 2018.
My favorite thing was that even when promoting the third Taken movie, Liam Neeson was like, well, you can't get taken. You can only get taken so many times.
32% on Rotten Tomatoes was a TV show. Damn, that's bad.
It's like The Hangover, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is the third Hangover. This is the third time this happened. This can't keep happening.
That's crazy. All right. What are you watching? Have you watched anything cool this past week?
Have I? No. Not at all.
Oh.
Other than
Well,
the
that was
Oscars.
this segment.
Other than 3 categories in the Oscars. That was all I
Nice.
saw.
Nice. I saw Fargo for the first time.
The
Speaking of
show or the movie?
Films. Speaking of movies that get remade into TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
The
It
movie.
was an
movie.
anthology show. That is a
Yeah, I
good-
watched the movie.
It's a good freaking movie.
Yeah, I was very surprised by it.
What surprised you?
It was a little funny. It was funny. It was funnier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a full-on Rush Hour comedy or Beverly Hills Cops comedy, but it was pretty. My favorite part, spoiler alert for anybody, but when they're investigating the car crash, it's like, oh, what'd you see there, Marge? Or it's like, oh, what'd you see there, Marge? Oh yeah, they had one girl right here and they shoot her. A bad
Is
Canadian
that your
accent.
Minnesotan accent?
Yeah, I'm very bad at it. It was, I don't know. If you haven't seen Fargo, go watch Fargo. It's a good watch.
That's a good one.
And only an hour and 40 minutes, which I was very happy about.
Joel and Ethan Coen.
Yeah,
For sure.
good Coen Brothers
Love
movie.
'em.
Well, that is going to be all for us today, folks. We appreciate you guys kind of being on the soapbox with us this week. Got a little ranty, but I think we talked a lot about good things. So
Yes.
it was a good discussion, I think.
Yes.
It's good talk about why we hate Disney.
You have Disney Plus, don't you?
No, I don't. I don't
Oh,
even
okay.
use Disney
I
Plus.
was trying to call you out on being a hypocrite or something like that.
No. I think we both agree with one another where remakes are bad unless they're good, and then they're good unless they're bad. But yeah, that's all for us this week, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in next week. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, follow us on or subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on our Instagrams. Until next week, talk to you later. Have a good night.